Good morning, welcome to Herald Now with me, Ryan Bridge. Great to have your company. It is Wednesday, the 12th of November. Coming up on the show today, it's a big one. We got big failings. This is found in the way senior police handle complaints by a young woman against former Deputy Commissioner Jevin McSkimming. Why did Andrew Costa stop Mark Mitchell, the police minister, from seeing emails about McSkimming? We asked that question this morning. We'll speak to Louise Nichols. We'll speak to the Commissioner Richard Chambers and Mark Mitchell all before 7:30. The Arms Act is getting repealed and rewritten, but ACT couldn't convince its coalition partners to allow greater access to military-style semi-automatics, which I thought was the point. Nicole McKee fronts up. That's after 7:30. And new data out from Westpac and Cotality shows a jump in first home buyers in the last quarter. 27% of houses were bought by first-time buyers. So, is this a blip or a trend? We'll ask Calvin Davidson. Plus, we've got David Seymour and Marama Davidson on the show this morning. First, here's Neva.
Herald Now News, powered by News Talk ZB.
The police force is undergoing huge change following a scathing report revealing major failings by senior leadership as they handled allegations Jevin McSkimming was a sexual predator. The former Deputy Police Commissioner is awaiting sentence after pleading guilty to having child sexual exploitation and bestiality material on his work devices. A police watchdog report finds some of the nation's highest-ranking officers ignored a young woman's anonymous complaints against McSkimming. Instead of an investigation, her emails were used to prosecute her for harassment. The government's now moving to install an Inspector General of Police. Police Commissioner Richard Chambers says he's undertaking a refresh of senior leadership. He says he's appointed an independent King's Counsel to conduct employment investigations where required. Police Minister Mark Mitchell says the findings should not be a reflection on police. He says the police enjoy strong public trust and it's imperative it remains. Meanwhile, survivors advocate Louise Nichols told Ryan Bridge she's disgusted and saddened by the allegations, but says it feels somewhat inevitable. And former Police Commissioner Andrew Costa is on leave from his new role as the Chief Executive of the Social Investment Agency. The Associate Justice Minister admits some ideas in her Arms Act rewrite didn't make it past the cutting room floor. She's revealed details of changes to the 1983 Act delivered under an ACT National Coalition agreement. It doesn't include Nicole McKee's bid to allow greater access to military-style semi-automatic weapons. She says she's also not ruling out scrapping the gun registry, which she didn't get this time. McKee says she didn't win the argument, so actors invoked the agree to disagree clause with the coalition. The Automobile Association says there are few alternatives for motorists looking to dodge potential congestion charges. Parliament's passed a law creating a framework for councils to start charging drivers for using certain roads during peak periods, starting in Auckland. AA Policy Director Martin Glynn says overseas congestion pricing is used in city streets, but in Auckland, it'll have to be on the motorways. Progress appears to be underway towards a potential Pike River prosecution nearly 15 years on. Police have finished their investigation into whether anyone will be responsible for the deadly 2010 blast that killed 29 men. Crown solicitors are expected to make a decision before Christmas. IKEA's confirmed the menu for its soon-to-open Auckland store. Kiwis will be able to tuck into classic Swedish meatballs with mashed peas and jam, alongside Kiwi classics like fish and chips and lamb pies. Some special New Zealand exclusives include pavlova and an eatball medley where customers can sample all three meatball varieties on one plate.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
The All Blacks have farewelled two further players from camp. Loose forwards Samipeni Fino and Luke Jacobson return home due to a family illness and concussion protocols respectively. George Ford has beaten Finn Smith and Marcus Smith to the 10 jersey in the England side to play New Zealand on Sunday morning at Twickenham in one of 7 changes to the starting team that beat Fiji. An Australian-bred horse has claimed the New Zealand Trotting Cup for a third straight year. 4-year-old pacer Kingman triumphed with Luke McCarthy in the sulky.
Andrew Costa's a dead man walking now. Anyone not completely brainwashed during the COVID period could see there was just something a bit off about him, and this IPCA report is proof they were basically right. He knew about this so-called affair that McSkimming had. The woman had worked for police. He didn't ask the questions that he should have. The report says he promoted McSkimming, didn't tell the people he should have told about the dodgy stuff, which makes the dodgy stuff look, well, just a bit more dodgy, doesn't it? In August, I asked Costa about McSkimming. A lot of your colleagues have said that they were sort of shocked to find out. Were you guys mates?
I'm just not going to comment at the moment. I'm sorry.
Does it make you uncomfortable seeing him, walking into court?
Again, I just won't comment, Ryan. Of course, it's a really disturbing situation, but I'm not going to go into this until it's been resolved.
So no answers then, and still no answers now. We've asked to speak to him this morning. He's on leave. Nicola Willis gets tangled up in all of this too. She recommended Costa for his current job, big government job. He's still got a 5-year contract in that job. She says she's appalled by this, but she can't fire him. That's a job for Brian Roche. And I don't think there's any doubt at this point that he's going to get the sack unless he resigns first. The whole thing is an absolute cluster. It's a big government job, the police commissioner. You've got to cross your I's and you've got to cross your T's and dot your I's. It's a $700,000 job. That is what it's worth, and Costa wasn't up to that job. And if he doesn't quit his current one, I think only a matter of time before it's taken from him. The clock for Costa is now ticking. As for the front line, sadly, respect and integrity take a lifetime to earn and a moment to lose. They're the ones who will cop the backlash for this. They're the ones who have to actually talk to real people every day on the streets. And as of 6 o'clock last night, their jobs just became a whole lot harder.
Herald Now weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora, heavy rainfall returns from the north as we head through the rest of the day, with that rain reaching towards Northland this morning, Auckland this afternoon, and then spilling across the rest of the Northland through the night time tonight. We have got some heavy rain watches for Northland, the Coromandel, those western parts of the Bay of Plenty, and also crossing towards Tairafti as well, and along with that some pretty strong gusty winds as well. Down in the south, it's generally the better part to be. Plenty of dry weather down across southern parts of New Zealand, some stronger winds around the coastal parts of Otago. Up into Canterbury and Marlborough, most of the day it's dry, areas of cloud to watch out for, and it will turn cloudier later on, those winds picking up through Cook Strait by the end of the day. The North Side will generally get cloudier through the daytime. Watch out for the winds through places like Taranaki and Wanganui as we head through the night time tonight. And for the wetter weather, head up towards those northern parts of the country. For the likes of Tairafti, it's late in the day, but it is a wet-looking story. For the Bay of Plenty, the rain arrives during the afternoon and stays with us. Similarly, for the likes of Northland, Auckland, it gets wetter and windier through the daytime. The risk of some thunderstorms, especially around those eastern parts of Northland and Auckland, and rather a windy end today in Auckland with that rainfall as well.
This IPCA report, this scandal that's now engulfing the top brass in the police, former top brass in the police, is pretty grubby, to be honest with you. And this is what Judith Collins had to say about it all.
Massively let down by a leadership team that seemed more interested in protecting one of their own, a very senior police officer, instead of actually getting to the nub of the issue, dealing with it properly, and then seeing what came out of it.
So we're not going to hear from Costa today, but we are going to hear from Chambers, the current commissioner. We'll also hear from Mitchell, the minister. This all inside the next 20-odd minutes. Right now, though, we're going to Louise Nicholas, who is a national sexual violence survivor and advocate, and joining us live this morning from Rotorua. Louise, good morning.
Morning, Ryan.
What did you think reading that report, hearing that conference yesterday?
Initial reaction was really saddened, but then anger. And I'm just gutted that we're going through all this again, and that the woman that at the centre of it all was let down in such a way that it just defies comprehension. To be fair,
to have the most senior police officers intervening, and this woman being arrested. How do you describe that?
I mean, well, how do you describe that? That's just incompetence at the highest level. This woman did all the right things. She put complaints in and nothing was done. Why? Because it was complaints against a senior officer. And so, you know, that team just went right around him, protected him, and didn't even bother to see, you know, actually investigate her allegations.
Louise, do you agree with Judith Collins? If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's corruption?
I quite like how she said that, to be fair.
What about Costa, reading about his role in all of this? What did you think of that?
Well, yeah, he's got a lot to answer for, absolutely. And will he front? That'll be interesting to see. And I hope he does. But we'll see.
Louise, your experience with police, this experience with police, is police ever going to change?
Oh, look, honestly, over the years, myself and my team have worked, and we work very closely with police officers who are supporting survivors of sexual violence and family violence. And I give them credit for it's a damn hard job to do, but they do it with integrity, they do it with empathy. And that's why a lot of our survivors actually want to go through the process, because of the support that is given. We've got amazing coppers out there, and I don't want what has happened to actually define the rest of the New Zealand police, because that's wrong. I know that, you know, you'll always have bad eggs in every organisational basket. Get that, understand that. But what I have seen over the years is that the New Zealand police, they actually call out their colleagues about that bad behaviour. And, you know, let's not bring the whole of the New Zealand police into disrepute because of these idiots.
Well said, Louise. Appreciate that. Thank you, Louise Nicholas, who's a national sexual violence survivor and advocate, reacting to that IPCA report. Time now is 11 minutes after 7. Now, if you've got feedback for us this morning, we'd love to hear it. Ryan at nzherald.co.nz is how you can get in touch, or of course you can do that on our YouTube channel. 11 after 7 now. Time for our political panel for your Wednesday morning. At Parliament is David Seymour from ACT and Marama Davidson from the Greens. Good morning. Good morning,
Ryan.
Good to see you both. Hey, we'll start with quick reaction from both of you to this report from police. You know, Costa's involvement. Marama, thoughts?
There has to be accountability, Ryan, and really just want to place the complainant at the centre of all of this. We need to get to the bottom of what has happened, and there has to be responsibility taken, absolutely.
David, do you think it was odd that Costa was hired by the government to do this new job just at the end of last year?
Well, to answer that question, not necessarily, because the point of a cover-up is that ministers weren't aware of this. They did everything they could to make sure that the people making the hiring decision didn't know about these things. Now we do. I just want to follow what Marama said, is the complainant should be put at the centre of this. And actually all potential complainants need to have their trust restored in police. I just make the point that this is a disgraceful set of events. However, the person at the centre of it, or at least the offender at the centre of it, has pled guilty, is long gone. The person who was the commissioner, as we've just discussed, is now gone. The government will be severely strengthening the Independent Police Complaints Authority in response to this. And to follow on from what Louise Nicholas has said, you know, I work with the local cops in my area and as a local MP in Epsom, and sometimes around the country. They are salt of the earth people. They're some of the greatest New Zealanders.
And I hope
they don't deserve to wear this.
They don't. Unfortunately, they
and bear in mind, some of them blew the whistle
no, absolutely.
And the ones that blew the whistle 100%. Should also be commended.
Do you think Costa should be in any public job, David?
Well, just bear in mind he's an employee and there's an employment process to go through.
Yeah,
so
I know, but I'm asking just for you
to start giving.
No, but you're a politician with strong views. What do you think? Does he deserve to be in a public job or not?
Well, based on the things that I've heard to date, I'd find it very hard to see how he could continue. But I have to respect that the guy's got rights as an employee, and that will be worked through. But I can tell you that, having talked very briefly with Nicola Willis, she's got no time for anything.
No, they're all absolutely seething about it. Marama, asset sales, are there, and I know what you're going to say, don't sell those assets, but are there some that actually, we could probably do without? I mean, do we need to own TVNZ? Do we need to own farms? You guys don't even like farms. Why do we need to own one?
So it's public services, Ryan. This government, its plan from the very start has been to defund public services for our communities to the point of failure, to justify flogging them off. So overseas, offshore, private investors can make a quick buck. And what we know is that ends up bad for our people. Public assets and services need to be held in the hands of the people of New Zealand. We've seen from the partial privatisation of energy companies, for example.
Yeah.
Your viewers at home, Ryan, are watching their power bills fly through the roof, while the gentailers are making massive, massive profits. Hold on to our public assets and our services, absolutely.
Even if they're making losses, like even if you're not getting a dividend from them, even if they're worth less, then do we, and they're not making money, then do we still hold on to them?
So decades and decades of underinvestment into our public services. The priority is to deliver quality services. But yes, we have seen successive governments fail to invest properly to deliver the care to communities and people that New Zealanders absolutely deserve. There has to be proper investment into them, absolutely.
David, do you have a response to your friend and colleague Winston Peters, who says two things? One, don't sell the assets, it's a dumb idea, but also that your government isn't turning the economy around quick enough?
Well, a couple of things. On the first one, the truth is, and just to pick up what Marama said, Marama said these are public services, but I think a lot of the things that the government owns and is making a loss on, by the way, often we're paying a higher interest bill on government debt than we're actually getting from owning these companies. So you look at something like quotable value, they do property valuation, they've got contracts over in New South Wales. You look at Pāmu or Landcorp that you mentioned, that they own a bunch of farms. That's not a public service. In many cases, it's just businesses that are competing with other businesses. They're not public services, and they're also not making money to provide for other public services that we'd like to provide. Would be better if we said, look, I don't think that the New Zealand public need a politician to be the nominal shareholder of that business anymore. Let's get our cash out, pay down our debt, and use the money that we have for things that are actually really public services. So that's the conversation we have. Also, just make the point that I think New Zealanders recognise that we face some challenges as a country, and they're up for an honest conversation, not a sort of rhetorical conversation like, with respect, what we just heard from Marama. We've got to get to the detail and how these things actually work. And your second question about, Winston, it's just Winston being Winston. About 2 months ago, I heard him say that, he was the one who knew the economy wouldn't turn around straight away, and he warned us all that wouldn't happen. A couple of months later, he's saying, oh, it hasn't happened fast enough. So, that's Winston.
Is he just making stuff up?
Well, I don't think he's making it up. He's sharing his views, as some people know and love him for doing. Other people would say, well, okay, but where do we actually fix what matters?
Is
How
he
do we
right,
problem solve
Is he right
and,
when he
and get
says,
through these issues?
Is he right when he says you're not turning the economy around fast enough?
Well, there's going to be people out there who are saying, look, my bills are high, there's my power bill,
what
my
are you
grocery
saying?
bill, when do we
right
get the
or
relief?
not?
So people will have that view. Well, I can accept that view is out there, of course. But on the other hand, the government is managing its own spending very carefully.
All right.
We've pulled down inflation. That's pulling down interest rates. All of those things are happening, but there are no shortcuts.
Marama, what's with Te Pāti Māori? Obviously, a bit of an implosion happening there, to say the least. What is your pitch to Māori voters for Te Pāti Green, for the Green Party?
Focused on my colleagues and I, my Green Party MPs, continuing to do our mahi every single day, focus on getting rid of the most anti-tiriti, anti-Māori government that we have ever seen, and that continues. I want to acknowledge that, Te Ao Māori, Māori people and communities out there, are feeling some pōti, some sadness about what is happening. And look, all I can do, Ryan, is concentrate on what my team are doing and fighting hard every single day to reduce the cost of living for people, to protect Papatūānuku, our environment, and focus on getting rid of this government.
David, most Māori don't vote for Te Pāti Māori, but for those voters who have, particularly on the Māori roll, what's your pitch to them from ACT?
Well, I would say the ACT Party has actually done more for Māori than the Māori Party's ever done. If you look at charter schools opening up, being able to choose your destiny in education, Te Rito in the far north, I mean, that's got massive engagement, it's growing rapidly, attendance is fantastic, Te Aratika and Hawke's Bay, St Stephen's, I mean, that's just one policy of charter schools. The other thing I'd say is that if you want to get ahead, being able to access property, have a safe roof over your head and own it, that's got worse and worse for Māori for years and years. It takes up more and more of people's household budget. But if you want to fix that, what do you got to do? Well, make it easier to get a resource consent. We're replacing the Resource Management Act. Make it easier to build, which are making changes to the Building Act so you can get more reliable and affordable building materials. And you've also got to fund infrastructure better to connect all those new houses together, which we are also doing with the Infrastructure Funding and Financing Act changes that have been going through Parliament recently. So if you want to actually fix what matters, you want to problem solve, you don't want slogans and bumper sticker politics, you actually want to say these are some big problems, you can't fix them straight away, let's just step it out, like an engineer would, then actually I think we can point to more practical improvement for Māori from the ACT Party than TPM's ever done.
All right. Very good. You give very long answers, David. I only say this because getting into solving problems is actually important, and I believe that the New Zealand public are ready for it. They're sometimes talked down to and dumbed down by some of the style of politics. I'm getting another long answer.
We know the problems need to be solved.
David, I understand you. I appreciate you both this morning. Thank you. David Seymour and Marama Davidson.
Thanks, Ryan.
21 minutes after 7 and you're watching Herald Now. Right, this IPCA business with police, as I said earlier, an absolute cluster, basically, and we're being alleged this morning on the program from David Seymour and others that there was a cover-up at the most senior levels of the New Zealand Police. Richard Chambers is the Police Commissioner joining us this morning. Richard, good morning. Thanks for being with me.
Pleasure, Ryan. Good morning too.
It kind of looks to me like you've had to come in and spend half your time actually cleaning up the mess of the guy before you.
Ryan, it certainly feels that way.
What did he tell you when you took over? Did he tell you about all this stuff?
No, he never told me anything about this stuff. He's never spoken to me about it at all. I was briefed by one of my very senior, capable detective superintendents 2 days before I started as the Commissioner of Police, and that's the first I knew of it.
Does that kind of shock you, now that you know what you know?
The whole thing shocks me, Ryan. It's an absolute disgrace. It's a failing of leadership. It's, the integrity issue here is significant. The whole thing is appalling. And the reality is, my staff across the country day and night do an incredible job, and this lets us all down when the most senior leaders of New Zealand Police behave in this way.
Do you think he should have a job in the public service at all?
Well, that's a matter for him and his employer. I read the report and I form my own view, as many will, but, that is a matter for him and his employer.
What's the feeling? You read the report, I read the report. There's the potential for him to say, look, this is Costa. I thought I was doing the right thing. I tried. Do you think that this was, intentionally covering up and misleading? Or do you think this was bumbling incompetence?
A commissioner must never get involved, and other senior leaders must never get involved in matters of this nature. We leave it to the experts, we leave it to the practitioners to do their work, and they do a stunning job for our country. But they involved themselves in this. The interference was clear for all to see. That is appalling, Ryan, and and this is the mess we're now mopping up. And I believe, as the report also says, that they were acting in self-interest of a senior individual who was positioning himself to be the next Commissioner of Police. Well, imagine the disaster that would have been.
Do you think they didn't want you to be the Commissioner because you might come in and find out all these little secrets?
Oh, that's quite possible, Ryan. I have no doubt. I've said very clearly I'm no friend of members of the former executive who are noted in this report, and I just wanted to get on and do my job. I've always done that. I've always had my view, and it's an absolute privilege to be the Commissioner of Police and leading my teams across the country. So that could well be a factor here. For the complainant, what happens now? Are you looking at compensation? Does someone look at some kind of compensation? I've reached out to her legal representative yesterday afternoon at the first opportunity that I was able to do that, and I expressed my apology on behalf of New Zealand Police for the way that she had been treated. He was very happy to receive my phone call, and I said there will be a chance for us. I'm hoping to meet in person where I can express that apology again. Appreciate your time this morning. Richard Chambers, the Police Commissioner. 25 minutes after 7. Let's go to the Minister now. Police Minister Mark Mitchell joins us live. Minister, good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
Does there need to be a ministerial inquiry into this?
So we feel like the IPCA report has been so thorough, so good and so detailed that at this stage that's not a consideration. Nothing is off the table. Obviously, we're doing several reviews. One of those is around how best now we structure a Inspector General to come in over the top of police to have more visibility on actually what's going on. But no, not at this point.
When you say not at this point, what will change your mind? This is an IPCA report. Yes, it's detailed, but this cuts to the core of public trust in one of the most important institutions in the country.
Yeah, and like I said, we just felt initially like the IPCA report is just so thorough. They've gone into so much detail and they have covered everything off. But a government inquiry is not a decision just for me. That's a broader decision, and it's something that the government can look at later if it needs to.
What do you? I just spoke to Richard Chambers, and he says quite clearly he thinks this whole thing was a cover-up. That this was self-interested. And the senior leaders, including Costa, were covering up for their friend, for their colleague who was trying to get a better job. And I know that you agree with that. You were told about this on November the 6th. Costa didn't start his new job with government, hired by Nicola Willis or recommended by Nicola Willis, didn't start that new job until November 11th. Who did you tell between the 6th and the 11th?
So the information that was brought forward to me was brought forward by Andrew Costa as the outgoing police commissioner.
What did he say?
And
did he say that? Did he say that he knew about all of this stuff and didn't pass it on?
No, he briefed me on the situation with Jiva McSkibbing and the investigation that was currently going on in front of through the IPCA. And after that meeting, it was simply my concern. It was not about Andrew Costa at that point. Obviously, with the IPCA report coming out now, it is obviously about Andrew Costa because he was the commissioner at a time when we've seen atrocious behaviour by the entire police executive. Yes. And yes, I agree with you to subvert a process. But if you let me finish, so he briefed me on the 6th. And on the 7th, I met with the Public Service Commission and the Solicitor General to bring forward my concerns around the situation with Jiva McSkimming.
Right. So he rings you, Costa, and he says, hey, that thing is happening with McSkimming, and he had this affair with a younger woman who was a police employee. Did you ask him, when did you find out, Andy?
Yeah, I asked him for the whole. I asked a lot of detail around it. I wanted to know the details on it.
Okay.
Because I was to be honest with you, Ryan, I was not at that point. I was not that comfortable with it, and that is why I called a meeting on the 7th with PSC and the Solicitor General to bring forward those concerns.
Right, and were your concerns about McSkimming or about Costa?
They were about McSkimming and his behaviour. At that point, the integrity issues have come forward through the IPCA
yes, I know,
report to all of us.
You asked
so we've got visibility on that.
But Minister, you asked Costa when he found out. So what did he tell you? Did he lie to you then, or was he telling the truth? And why couldn't you see it for what it was?
Oh no,
he was covering up.
No, he was fully aware of it. My line of questioning was around Jevon McSkimming and his behaviour and his actions towards the young lady. That was my line of questioning. It wasn't. There wasn't any evidence. There wasn't any integrity issues brought forward other than my focus on Jevon McSkimming, and you would have seen that I acted quickly on suspending him, and then of course recommending to the Prime Minister that he lose his job because I'd lost confidence in him. But that my focus was on McSkimming and the young lady at that point.
All right. I appreciate your time this morning, Minister. Thanks very much for being with me.
Thanks, Ryan.
Appreciate it. Mark Mitchell, who is the Police Minister. Time now is 7:30 on Herald Now. Here's Neva with headlines.
Herald Now News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
The police force is undergoing huge change following a scathing report revealing major failings by senior leadership as they handled allegations Jevon McSkimming was a sexual predator. The former Deputy Police Commissioner is awaiting sentence after pleading guilty to having child sexual exploitation and bestiality material on his work devices. A police watchdog report finds some of the nation's highest-ranking officers ignored a young woman's anonymous complaints against McSkimming. Instead of an investigation, her emails were used to prosecute her for harassment. The government's now moving to install an Inspector General of Police. Police Commissioner Richard Chambers says he's undertaking a refresh of senior leadership. He says he's appointed an independent King's Counsel to conduct employment investigations where required. Police Minister Mark Mitchell says the findings should not be a reflection on police. He says the police enjoy strong public trust and it's imperative it remains. Meanwhile, survivors advocate Louise Nicholas told Ryan Bridge she's disgusted and saddened by the allegations, but says it feels somewhat inevitable. And former Police Commissioner Andrew Costa is on leave from his new role as the Chief Executive of the Social Investment Agency. The Associate Justice Minister admits some ideas in her Arms Act rewrite didn't make it past the cutting room floor. She's revealed details of changes to the 1983 Act delivered under an ACT National Coalition agreement. It doesn't include Nicole McKee's bid to allow greater access to military-style semi-automatic weapons. She says she's also not ruling out scrapping the gun registry, which she didn't get this time. McKee says she didn't win the argument, so actors invoked the agree to disagree clause with the coalition. The Automobile Association says there are few alternatives for motorists looking to dodge potential congestion charges. Parliament's passed a law creating a framework for councils to start charging drivers for using certain roads during peak periods, starting in Auckland. AA Policy Director Martin Glynn says overseas congestion pricing is used in city streets, but in Auckland, it'll have to be on the motorways. Progress appears to be underway towards a potential Pike River prosecution nearly 15 years on. Police have finished their investigation into whether anyone will be responsible for the deadly 2010 blast that killed 29 men. Crown solicitors are expected to make a decision before Christmas. IKEA's confirmed the menu for its soon-to-open Auckland store. Kiwis will be able to tuck into classic Swedish meatballs with mashed peas and jam, alongside Kiwi classics like fish and chips and lamb pies. Some special New Zealand exclusives include pavlova and an eatball medley where customers can sample all 3 meatball varieties on one plate.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
The All Blacks have farewelled 2 further players from camp. Loose forwards Samipeni Fino and Luke Jacobson return home due to a family illness and concussion protocols respectively. George Ford has beaten Finn Smith and Marcus Smith to the 10 jersey in the England side to play New Zealand on Sunday morning at Twickenham in one of 7 changes to the starting team that beat Fiji. And Australian-bred horses claimed the New Zealand Trotting Cup for a third straight year. 4-year-old pacer Kingman triumphed with Luke McCarthy in the sulky.
26 away from 8 now. You know the COP conference that we all love. We spoke to a university professor from Auckland who was over in Brazil for the COP climate change conference yesterday, which was all very exciting. Now, the COP conference, you might think that they go there and argue and bicker about who's going to reduce emissions and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure that does go on. There's a bit of my collar that is just won't behave today. Anyway, there are bigger problems in the world like climate change, of course. Anyway, over at COP, they're not even arguing about how to end global warming. Well, they are doing a bit of that. But remember, half the world's polluters aren't there. The big half, the bad half of the world's polluters aren't even there. So why the hell are 50,000 people flying there on planes anyway? But the thing they're arguing about behind the scenes is who gets to host the next one. I'm not even kidding. Australia and Turkey are apparently, and they've got diplomats, they've got lobbyists involved trying to see who's going to get to host the next one. Is it going to be Australia? Is it going to be Turkey? It's turned into like the greeny Davos, where all of these people who are paid quite good money to write about climate change, talk about climate change, 50,000 of them all fly halfway around the world to have another talk about where they'll have the next meeting. I mean, come on. Here's weather, probably a bit hot.
Herald Now weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora, heavy rainfall returns from the north as we head through the rest of the day, with that rain reaching towards Northland this morning, Auckland this afternoon, and then spilling across the rest of the North Island through the night time tonight. We have got some heavy rain watches for Northland, the Coromandel, those western parts of the Bay of Plenty, and also crossing towards Tairāwhiti as well. And along with that, some pretty strong gusty winds as well. Down in the south, it's generally the better part to be. Plenty of dry weather down across southern parts of New Zealand, some stronger winds around the coastal parts of Otago. Up into Canterbury and Marlborough, most of the day it's dry, areas of cloud to watch out for, and it will turn cloudier later on, those winds picking up through Cook Strait by the end of the day. The North Island will generally get cloudier through the daytime. Watch out for the winds through places like Taranaki and Wanganui as we head through the night time tonight. And for the wetter weather, head up towards those northern parts of the country. For the likes of Tairāwhiti, it's late in the day, but it is a wet-looking story. For the Bay of Plenty, the rain arrives during the afternoon and stays with us. Similarly, for the likes of Northland, Auckland, it gets wetter and windier through the daytime. The risk of some thunderstorms, especially around those eastern parts of Northland and Auckland, and rather a windy end to the day in Auckland with that rainfall as well.
Right, it is 23 minutes away from 8 now. Time to talk business with our partners 2 Degrees. Forsyth Bar has cut its target prices for all 4 gin tailors, and Garth Bray is here to tell us why from Business Desk. Garth, good morning.
Good morning.
It's all a bit political, isn't it?
Bit of political shade on those big power companies. I mean, we thought this was sort of all done and dusted about a month or so ago when they said, hey, this is what we're doing, it's not major. But the analysts have taken a look and said, look, the biggest headwind they've...
Garth, your mic's off.
What?
Useless. Honestly, it's hard enough looking at you, let alone not hearing you.
Well, that's fine. Should we put that
Garth's just going to sort his mic out.
Well,
there we
should
go.
we try that once more
Let's
with
try
feeling?
that one more time with feeling.
Okay.
All right, so Garth, okay, all right, pretend that never happened. Garth's here from Business Desk to talk about the gin tailors. The 4 gin tailors, Forsyth Bar is saying actually they're probably not worth as much as we think they currently are.
Because of political risk, because there's too much burley in the water. We're 12 months out from an election probably, right? And you've got parties on one side sort of saying, oh, well, maybe a bit more of the renewables. You've got NZ First in the mix there saying, hey, look, maybe we should still think about breaking these things up. And they're saying this is probably the most amount of uncertainty hanging over those big power companies
100%.
since 2013 election, when Labor and the Greens were saying we needed NZ Power, which is going to be like a single buyer of power. And that is going to cramp the value of these companies. So they've just pulled the values, the target prices back 2 to 4% in some cases, saying... Look,
unsurprising.
And the effect of that might mean a bit of uncertainty about, capital allocations and stuff, spending and building more stuff.
Totally.
Which is completely opposite what old Nicola Willis and Watts were saying about, oh, come and bring us your plans and we'll think about backing them. It's like, well, okay, except will Shane Jones stamp all over them? Is that a bargaining chip? Or is that actually a firm intention on their behalf?
100%. This is the problem when you get the government involved in the market.
Well, but they are.
Yeah,
There's no denying it, right?
No, they're donkey deep. Well, we're all halfway donkey deep in these companies, aren't we? Hey, we got card spending data from ANZ yesterday. We also had the truckometer.
Yes.
Or the truckometer.
Truckometer, I like, yeah.
And we're seeing, I know it's not great news, but it's good news.
Shifting out of first gear, but it's a pretty flat road, would be my analysis of those numbers there. You've got, so you've got the light traffic index, which was up about 0.2, about 3.2 year on year, so sort of just pacing ahead of inflation really. But that has been an indicator or somewhat predictive of where GDP goes, not to 3.2, but the trend line. You got the card spending that said durables were pretty strong. That's the part of the market that's pet shops, apparently. We're all flashing the cash at pet shops. Second-hand stores still doing a brisk trade. Maybe it's just the thrifting thing. And pharmacies, I guess we've just come out of winter. But, a real lift there, I think, about 6.3% year on year. So some signs, some momentum there in spending.
Because when your durables does well, which it's the fastest growing one, that's a sign that people are starting to...
So they say. But against that you had the reserve...
Can you not be a bit more excited, Garth?
All right, thrilled. Reserve Bank survey of 2-year expectations for inflation said, look, she's about flat, which generally indicates that demand's still a bit soft, which probably puts a bit of pressure on to say, yep, another OCR cut would be a good idea, but it does indicate that demand is soft, that people are thinking, hey, things aren't going to go gangbusters next year.
Which is good news that we're getting the OCR cut, hopefully, but bad news of why.
Yeah.
Now, Meta is about to lose its top AI guy. Why? Where's he going?
Well,
she going?
It is he, yes, Jan LeCun, and this is the Financial Times just reporting today, big exclusive splash there, that one of the pioneers of modern AI may be about to quit Meta and go off and run his own thing. Various reasons about why this is. On the one hand, he's been basically put under reporting to some 28-year-old whiz kid called Alexander Wang, who he possibly doesn't agree with, doesn't like being under Wang. And suggestions also that he's a little bit at odds with the Meta's plan to roll out lots of large language models really fast. And he's saying, look, these things basically are useful, but they'll never be able to reason and plan like humans, and there has to be a fundamentally different way of doing AI, my way. So he's off to do that potentially. Neither of the Meta nor LeCun are commenting on this. This is all just, chat on the sides.
Right.
But, we'll see. I mean, Meta's prices dipped down a little bit on that.
Those kind of AI announcements right now are like, crack cocaine for the market.
Absolutely, yeah. The Meta price hasn't dropped anywhere near as much as it did last week when they all took a bath, but it has dipped just a wee bit in trading today.
Garth, brilliant. Always good to see you. Thank you, Garth Bray from Business Desk. That's thanks to our partners, 2 Degrees. Time now, 18 minutes away from 8. Coming up next, Nicole McKee is in the hot seat this morning, Associate Minister of Justice. This is on the gun announcement from yesterday. Made a big song and dance about the gun register, about the military-style assault weapons, and then no changes in those areas. What gives? Nicole McKee next.
For investment, it's important to find a team that you can trust.
We decided to build the GJs because they're good quality that they always provide us.
They've helped us throughout the whole process of getting the resource consent to the building consent, and their contracts are very easy to understand. We have built 4 houses with GJ Gardeners, and it's just easier every time we work with them.
I'll definitely recommend GJs to all of my friends and family.
If you're thinking of building, choose the builder you'll want to build with time and time again.
I became a Herald journalist to get at the truth.
I became a Herald journalist to share not only what's going on, but also what it means.
To help people make up their own minds about the issues that matter.
To give a voice to every New Zealander and to expose the issues affecting our communities.
To make sure that people that are in positions of power are held to account.
To enact change that will ultimately benefit all of society.
To take our readers closer to the action.
I became a Herald journalist to put the facts first. That's the reason we're here.
If it's news you can trust, it's news worth knowing. The New Zealand Herald.
You Do It delivers high-quality New Zealand-made flat-pack DIY kitchen cabinetry. With flexible widths at your fingertips, it makes designing easy. All at an affordable price because you order online and cut out the middleman. You can even upgrade your dream kitchen with You Do It stylish and clever options, like choosing wall cabinets with overhanging doors, or select from a range of pull-out storage solutions. Add premium soft-close drawers and ask to stretch the height, width or depth of your cabinets. Upgrade your kitchen today and head to newsroom.co.nz.
Term deposit rates are falling, but your returns shouldn't. Speak to a Foresight Bar investment advisor about alternative strategies, their benefits and risks, and how they can help you meet your investment goals. Foresight Bar, investment advice.
Welcome back. It is 16 minutes away from 8. We'll get to Mark Richardson, who is here for personal finance. That's coming up just before 8 o'clock. A proposed overhaul of our gun laws has been revealed has revealed, I should say. Right, we're having changes to our firearms licensed firearms owners. The rewrite of the Arms Act will also include a raft of new offences and automatically disqualify gang members from holding a gun licence. What it doesn't include, however, is a scrapping of the gun registry or a broadening of access to military-style semi-automatic weapons, which acts could not get coalition agreement for. Nicole McKee is the Associate Minister of Justice and joins us this morning. Minister, good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
What's up with the semi-automatics and the firearms registry? Couldn't get it across the line. Who said no?
Well, the firearms registry was actually sorted out quite a while ago. We went through a review, and when I did the rewrite, we had an agreement at the time of the review that I was not allowed to tinker with the registry in order to make any substantial changes there. However, there is one change that I have made to the registry in the Arms Act, and that is in regard to a section that allowed the regulator to be able to collect all sorts of information that was not pertinent to the registry itself. Now, under the new law, they will only be able to gather information that is pertinent to the registry.
Right.
To give you an example, I've been told that people were asked for their bank account numbers and their licence plate numbers, and that will no longer happen.
Okay, well, that sounds like a reasonable thing. What about the...
In regard to the MSS, yes, in regard to the MSSAs, I tried very hard on behalf of the sporting shooters to be able to have a controlled environment and a strict environment for MSSAs to be shot or used in competition on pistol ranges. And I fought very hard for that, but the reality is that the coalition government did not agree. Now, I had to weigh up, Ryan, do I die in a ditch over this and not get the over 50 policy changes, including the transfer of police out of the Firearms Safety Authority over this, or do I get the big deal done, which I believe I have, and perhaps look to work on some other changes into the future? I mean, that all depends on what reactions we get to this submission that we're putting up now.
Okay, that's fair. With the MSSAs, what was the arguments that you heard at the cabinet table against you? Because the government and from memory, New Zealand First, both at the time. Well, actually, no, I take that back. It wouldn't have been New Zealand First, but certainly National was talking about, this is after the election, was there overreach with firearms after March 15? What was the pushback about?
I absolutely believe there was overreach after March 15, 2019, and it was an emotive reaction that wasn't based on data or on common sense, and that's what I produced to Cabinet as part of my argument. My personal feeling is that the emotion is still raw, and I can understand that, and that's why it was hard for me to get those particular policies across the line. But it was debated, and what I will say is ACT is the only party that stood against those reforms, that stood against the registry, and stood against the only party to do so.
All right. Gun crime, going to get worse or going to get better under this government?
It is my expectation it's going to get better, and we're already seeing some slight changes there. Some of the rules that I'll be putting in place under the new Arms Act, including disqualifying gang members from being able to have licences, will mean that those that did have licences and fed firearms to illegally held people will stop eventually. If it does not, there will be prosecutions for those that are caught.
How many gang members?
At the moment, At the moment, my understanding is that there's one. When I came into Parliament in opposition, there were over 20. We have been systematically getting police, or I guess going after the regulator, continuously asking how many gang members had licences, and they were reducing over time. I want to make sure that that option is not available to any gang member on the national gangs list ever again.
All right. Nicole McKee, who is the Associate Justice Minister with us this morning. Appreciate your time, Minister. 11 minutes away from 8 o'clock now to Christchurch, where police are still on the hunt for the gunman who left a woman critically injured. This is on Monday night. Claire Sherwood, News Talk ZB South Island News Director with us. Claire, good morning.
Good morning.
So this was what we understand was a hit and run or attempted hit and run. Drive-by.
A drive-by shooting. Yeah, this is a curious situation on Monday night in the suburb of Aranui. The street is Shortland Street. We knew for some time that police were responding to a serious incident at an address there, and then it's become apparent that a woman was critically injured. She'd suffered a gunshot wound at a house there. Now, over the last day or so, we've learned from police that they believe it to be gang-related. The woman is now in hospital, but is considered serious and stable rather than critical. The interesting thing that our newsroom has learned from inquiries with contacts of ours is that not only is this gang-related, but it's believed that this was a drive-by shooting and that the woman who has suffered a wound was not necessarily the intended target of that shot and rather was mistakenly hit. So police are continuing to investigate. They say they've got positive lines of inquiry. They're looking for the offender who did fire that shot, who took off from the scene in a vehicle.
All right. Claire, thank you very much for that. Appreciate your time this morning. That's Claire Sherwood, who is in Christchurch. It is now 10 minutes away from 8 o'clock. Still to come, we've got Mark Richardson with Personal Finance, and we'll hear more later in the program, more reaction from our panel to today's big stories, all ahead here on Herald Now.
Oh, no, I mean tech solutions experts.
Here to set up your new smart TV.
Oh, goody. We're a family of 4, so we need it done perfect. Too high. Too low. Just right.
Of course, we can assess your Wi-Fi network and run a speed test. And now check out these features. This is how you get to streaming.
We love streams.
Nobody has supreme knowledge of home TV setup like Noel Leeming.
Here she is. How's the business going?
Good, actually. We just switched to 2 degrees. Well, we tested the networks and couldn't see any difference. But 2 degrees has the most satisfied customers. With Flex, we get instant control of phone plans, data usage, and cost centre reporting. And they're the fastest growing business network.
You can have what she's having.
Ready?
One Roof Property. Love where you live.
In 1985, my grandfather set out to make the world a better tea. That's why we grow our own, unlike other tea companies. Then pick the best leaves by hand, not machine, and pack it right here in Sri Lanka. But it's not just the taste that makes our tea better. 15% of our profit goes to humanity and to the elephants. As my grandfather said,
do try it.
Welcome back. 8 minutes away from 8 o'clock now to the BBC. The scandal. Tim Davey, he's the BBC Director. Well, he's no longer because he's going, but he says the broadcast is going through, quote, difficult times and says our journalists are great. Oh, I thought we might hear from him, but we won't. What I can tell you is and we will shortly. Davey and the head of the BBC's news division resigned, so we've had 2 resignations. This over their doctoring of this video or splicing of the video of Trump. Have a listen to Davey overnight.
I think we've got to fight for our journalism. I'm really proud of our work and the amazing work locally, globally that we're doing is utterly precious. We have made some mistakes that have cost us, but we need to fight for that.
I don't know how this is going to go down with normal people. We are, utterly courageous people, and we go around the world and we do important things, except for when we completely it up. You know what I mean? Does he sound a bit out of touch to you? 6 minutes away from 8 o'clock now. Time to talk finance, personal finance, thanks to our partners, Forsyth Barr. 7 US tech giants have collectively lost more than $1 trillion in stock valuation in the last week as confidence in AI wavers a little bit. After years of growth investments dominating the markets, is this the sign for investors to change their strategy? Mark Richardson is investment advisor with Forsyth Barr with me this morning. Mark, good morning.
Yeah, morning.
Yeah, so first of all, what is the difference between growth and value investing?
It's probably a good way to start, actually. So growth, and you mentioned the big tech stocks. So companies where they're priced for future earnings. So you're paying a bit of a premium now, but you're looking at what they're doing, and in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time, you're thinking they're going to be making a lot of money, and so you've paid for that now. So another example of that would be your medtech, guys who are developing these sort of flash medical devices, and a lot of money's going into research and development there. You're paying for what these going to do down the line. Value, on the other hand, is more sort of established sort of companies. Think maybe financials, energy, consumer staples. These are companies that may be a little bit underloved, but
they're making money.
They're making their fundamentals are great. Yeah. The market's probably underloved them a little bit. You look at that and go, that's good value. I'm paying for what I'm getting now. And then the theory being that finally the market wakes up and realises, hang on, this is a good business, and then you get the capital gain on top of that.
Yeah, and because everyone gets a bit carried away, don't they? A bit flirty with all of the darlings of the stock market. When your tried and true, your workhorses can get overlooked.
Well, we look at it, a lot of these companies now, these big tech companies and some of these big companies that we would call growthy companies, are priced for perfection. So if every time they come out, you go, hang on, that was a good report. They're making profit, there's lots of cash there, and it drops 5-6% because the market is so demanding. It's wanting it to keep delivering on these high expectations. Whereas you've got some other companies that they're overlooking, they're going, hang on, they just keep churning away. So I don't think you want to, if you're going, okay, well, let's get out of growth. You don't want to go black and white on this. I think you just look at the situation, and you might start to just tilt a little bit. So you add a little bit more value, maybe take some of the gains or protect some of the performance you've had over the last year with the tech and the growth.
Do you think that some of those growth, the AI companies in particular, are overvalued, have been overvalued?
Well, as far as I look at them, and this is the big question that is facing everyone at the moment. You look at them and you go, okay, the definition of a growth company, let's say, is maybe a new building company. Well, these are big established companies. They've been here for a long time. They are generating revenue. They are generating, have massive, sit on mountains of cash. But the growth is all around what are they doing with AI? Is this the next industrial revolution? How much is AI going to turn these already behemoths into something even bigger? So that's the growth aspect of these companies. That's where the question lies.
Yeah, and then the other thing is earnings. And I think actually we had this conversation like a month ago, before you went away, before I went away, about AI and about the dot-com bubble and how the valuations, the earnings compare for these AI companies versus some of the dot-com companies back in the day.
Yeah, well, these companies right now are actually established companies making money. That's probably the big difference is, they have got machines. This is where I think, Meta, who are, and we were talking about earlier on, Meta, who are investing heavily in AI, they don't, their capital expenditure on that, where that scared the market to a certain extent, is that they don't have this cash-generating machine that's operating in terms of data centers, things like that Amazon does, that Google, Alphabet has. They're basically going, okay, well, this is slightly different. We're an advertising company, pretty much. When you think about Meta, now we're getting into AI, and it's like, oh, you're spending a lot of money. How are you going to deliver on that?
Yes.
So all of a sudden, people are going, whoa, are they going to get the growth we expect? Markets questions that, and then you see the pullback.
And will consumers pay for the AI product? That's the other thing, right?
How do you make, when you're developing new products, one of the toughest questions, I'm not a researcher or analyst, okay? I'm an investment advisor.
All right.
Is how do you monetize your new products?
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest questions for a company.
Totally. Mark Richardson, always good to see you. Mark Richardson, investment advisor at Forsyth Barr. Thanks to our partners, Forsyth Barr. Time now is coming up to 8 o'clock on Herald Now. morning, welcome to Herald Now with me, Ryan Bridge. Wednesday the 12th of November, great to have your company. On the show this hour, the Police Minister Mark Mitchell has told Herald Now that that Costa, the former Police Commissioner, blocked emails about Jevon McSkimming from coming to his office. We'll get to our panel in just a second. New data out from Westpac and Cotality shows a big jump in first home buyers for the last quarter. 27% of houses were bought by first home buyers. We'll crunch the numbers with analyst Kelvin Davidson. And Teresa Payton was the first female chief information officer at the White House under George Bush. When she talks about cybersecurity, you should listen. She's in the country. She's here at the desk at 8:30. Plus, the creatine craze. Does it help your health? Does it make you more muscly? Does it make you stronger? What does it do to you long term? We'll ask an expert. First, Neva.
Herald Now News, powered by News Talk ZB.
The police force is undergoing huge change following a scathing report revealing major failings by senior leadership as they handled allegations Jevon McSkimming was a sexual predator. The former Deputy Police Commissioner is awaiting sentence after pleading guilty to having child sexual exploitation and bestiality material on his work devices. A police watchdog report finds some of the nation's highest-ranking officers ignored a young woman's anonymous complaints against McSkimming. Instead of an investigation, her emails were used to prosecute her for harassment. The government's now moving to install an Inspector General of Police. Police Commissioner Richard Chambers says he's undertaking a refresh of senior leadership. He says he's appointed an independent King's Counsel to conduct employment investigations where required. Police Minister Mark Mitchell says the findings should not be a reflection on police. He says the police enjoy strong public trust and it's imperative it remains. Meanwhile, survivors advocate Louise Nicholas told Ryan Bridge she's disgusted and saddened by the allegations, but says it feels somewhat inevitable. And former Police Commissioner Andrew Costa is on leave from his new role as the Chief Executive of the Social Investment Agency. The Associate Justice Minister admits some ideas in her Arms Act rewrite didn't make it past the cutting room floor. She's revealed details of changes to the 1983 Act delivered under an ACT National Coalition agreement. It doesn't include Nicole McKee's bid to allow greater access to military-style semi-automatic weapons. She says she's also not ruling out scrapping the gun registry, which she didn't get this time. McKee says she didn't win the argument, so actors invoked the agree to disagree clause with the coalition. The Automobile Association says there are few alternatives for motorists looking to dodge potential congestion charges. Parliament's passed a law creating a framework for councils to start charging drivers for using certain roads during peak periods, starting in Auckland. AA Policy Director Martin Glynn says overseas congestion pricing is used in city streets, but in Auckland, it'll have to be on the motorways. Progress appears to be underway towards a potential Pike River prosecution nearly 15 years on. Police have finished their investigation into whether anyone will be responsible for the deadly 2010 blast that killed 29 men. Crown solicitors are expected to make a decision before Christmas. IKEA's confirmed the menu for its soon-to-open Auckland store. Kiwis will be able to tuck into classic Swedish meatballs with mashed peas and jam, alongside Kiwi classics like fish and chips and lamb pies. Some special New Zealand exclusives include pavlova and an eatball medley where customers can sample all three meatball varieties on one plate.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
The All Blacks have farewelled two further players from camp. Loose forward Samipeni Fino and Luke Jacobson return home due to a family illness and concussion protocols respectively. George Ford has beaten Finn Smith and Marcus Smith to the 10 jersey in the England side to play New Zealand on Sunday morning at Twickenham in one of 7 changes to the starting team that beat Fiji. An Australian-bred horse has claimed the New Zealand Trotting Cup for a third straight year. 4-year-old pacer Kingman triumphed with Luke McCarthy in the sulky.
Herald Now Weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora, heavy rainfall returns from the north as we head through the rest of the day, with that rain reaching towards Northland this morning, Auckland this afternoon, and then spilling across the rest of the Northland through the night time tonight. We have got some heavy rain watches for Northland, the Coromandel, those western parts of the Bay of Plenty, and also crossing towards Tairāwhiti as well. And along with that, some pretty strong gusty winds as well. Down in the south, it's generally the better part to be. Plenty of dry weather down across southern parts of New Zealand, some stronger winds around the coastal parts of Otago. Up into Canterbury and Marlborough, most of the day it's dry, areas of cloud to watch out for, and it will turn cloudier later on, those winds picking up through Cook Strait by the end of the day. The North Island will generally get cloudier through the daytime. Watch out for the winds through places like Taranaki and Wanganui as we head through the night time tonight. And for the wetter weather, head up towards those northern parts of the country. For the likes of Tairāwhiti, it's late in the day, but it is a wet-looking story. For the Bay of Plenty, the rain arrives during the afternoon and stays with us. Similarly, for the likes of Northland, Auckland, it gets wetter and windier through the daytime. The risk of some thunderstorms, especially around those eastern parts of Northland and Auckland, and rather a windy end today in Auckland with that rainfall as well.
Just gone 5 minutes after 8, you're watching Herald Now. This IPCA report this morning, Richard Chambers on Herald Now, absolutely brutal and scathing of his predecessor. Andrew Costa right now is on leave from his new government job running the Social Investment Agency. He's being investigated at the moment by the Public Service Commissioner over his handling of the McSkimming scandal. Earlier, Richard Chambers was on the program, the police commissioner, and I basically put it to him, it seems like he's spent half his time in the job cleaning up the mess of the guy before him.
Ryan certainly feels that way.
What did he tell you when you took over? Did he tell you about all this stuff?
No, he never told me anything about this stuff. He's never spoken to me about it at all. I was briefed by one of my very senior, capable detective superintendents 2 days before I started as the Commissioner of Police, and that's the first I knew of it.
Does that kind of shock you, now that you know what you know?
The whole thing shocks me, Ryan. It's an absolute disgrace. It's a failing of leadership. It's, you know, the integrity issue here is significant. The whole thing is appalling. You know, and the reality is, you know, my staff across the country day and night do an incredible job, and this lets us all down when the most senior leaders of New Zealand Police behave in this way.
Do you think he should have a job in the public service at all?
Well, that's a matter for him and his employer. You know, I read the report and I form my own view, as many will, but, you know, that is a matter for him and his employer.
What's the feeling? Oh, you read the report, I read the report. There's the potential for him to say, look, this is Costa. You know, I thought I was doing the right thing, I tried. Do you think that this was, you know, intentionally covering up and misleading? Or do you think this was bumbling incompetence?
A commissioner must never get involved, and other senior leaders must never get involved in matters of this nature. We leave it to the experts, we leave it to the practitioners to do their work, and they do a stunning job for our country. But they involved themselves in this. The interference was clear for all to see. That is appalling, Ryan. And you know, and this is the mess we're now mopping up. And I believe, as the report also says, that they were acting in self-interest of a senior individual who was positioning himself to be the next Commissioner of Police. Well, imagine the disaster that would have been.
Do you think they didn't want you to be the Commissioner because you might come in and find out all these little secrets?
Oh, that's quite possible, Ryan. I have no doubt. I've said very clearly I'm no friend of you know, members of the former executive who are noted in this report, and I just wanted to get on and do my job. I've always done that. I've always had my view, and it's an absolute privilege to be the Commissioner of Police and leading my teams across the country. So that could well be a factor here.
For the complainant, what happens now? Are you looking at compensation? Does someone look at some kind of compensation?
I've reached out to her legal representative yesterday afternoon at the first opportunity that I was able to do that, and I expressed my apology on behalf of New Zealand Police for the way that she had been treated. He was very happy to receive my phone call, and I said there will be a chance for us. I'm hoping to meet in person where I can express that apology again.
It was Richard Chambers, who is the Police Commissioner, on the program a little earlier. Time now is 9 minutes after 8. First-time buyers, first home buyers are having a bit of a moment at the moment. Windows open for them to get into the market while the prices are relatively more affordable. Westpac Cotality, their latest data reveals that they've got a record share. 28% of homes bought in the September quarter were purchased by first home buyers. They won't be buying homes like that. They're too nice. Kelvin Davidson, Chief Property Economist at Cotality, is with us now. Kelvin, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, good to have you on the show, Kelvin. In terms of records, what is that percentage normally?
Yeah, so the long run average, we've got these figures back to 2005. The long run average for first home buyers around about sort of 21, 22%. So yeah, we're a good margin above that. I mean, there's been new record highs set for probably the last couple of years. So it is just a favourable market for first home buyers, definitely taking advantage of lower prices, lower interest rates, and also entering with low deposit. You know, those LVR speed limits of the banks is a big support for first home buyers too. So just overall a positive news story.
What about in terms of numbers? I mean, as a proportion of the market, but are there fewer people in the market, and therefore, you know, on a raw numbers basis, are there more first home buyers now than there have been in previous years?
Yeah, there are. The number of first home buyers is about a sort of 4 or 5 year high. There have been times in the past where the housing market itself has been so much busier that even a lower market share for first home buyers has translated into more buyers. But I think, you know, both sides of the equation are looking pretty good. Number of deals, sort of 4 or 5 year high. Percentage of deals at a record high. So either way you cut it, it's pretty good news story.
Kelvin, what sort of level are we, and what sort of properties are we talking about?
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to differ around the country depending on affordability, that sort of thing. But what we've seen nationally in the past sort of 3 months, 6 months is a median price paid by first home buyers of about $700,000. So that will differ depending on where you are, of course, depending on the level of the market, what sorts of properties. But it's around about that $700,000 mark. And as I said before, I mean, getting in with low deposit, that's, I mean, $700,000 will seem like a lot to a lot of people, but you don't necessarily need that 20% deposit. There's a lot of first home buyers getting in with less than that. Around about half, actually, of first home buyers enter with less than 20% deposit. So that's definitely a strong way in for people. You don't need that 20%. $700,000 is about what people are paying.
Interesting. Kelvin, I was looking at Australia's numbers last night. Their property prices way higher than ours. Like, they're back up to pre-COVID, you know, COVID levels of excitement over there. I think in the last month they had a 1% lift just for the month, and then they've had something like close to 6% for the year. And they're helping the government there, first home buyers, in with a 5% loan. You know, you don't need 20%, that sort of thing. But that's almost inflating the prices again. So are we going to get back to, and some people don't want us to, some people do, are we going to get back to that level at some point?
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there. There's always two sides of the market. Some people want it up, some people want it down. I mean, the thing in Australia is that they've announced basically a new subsidy scheme for first home buyers. So that's a little bit different than the situation we've got here. We do know that subsidies just tend to inflate prices because sellers will know that's in the market and they just kind of add it on to the price. But I think the big things that have been pushing up Australian house prices have really been a tight supply of listings, and a pretty strong economy, a pretty strong labour market. Those two things have been completely the opposite here. But I think if you think about the next 12 or 18 months, we're probably going to see a strengthening economy. We're probably going to see listings tighten a bit. So Australia maybe is a wee bit of a test case for us. Do we see a fresh boom? Don't think so. We've got things like DTIs now as well. So I think the window for first home buyers will stay open. House prices probably not running away. There's a good choice out there at the moment. So scope for first home buyers to continue entering at prices that are still down 15, 20% from 4 or 5 years ago.
Appreciate your time this morning, Kelvin. Thank you. Kelvin Davidson, Chief Property Economist at Cotality. It is 13 minutes after 8. Right, creatine is the latest supplement sweeping the wellness world. Once reserved for bodybuilders and elite athletes like me, it's now staple for your average gym goer. Does it deliver the health benefits or just a whole bunch of hype? Grant Schofield is with us this morning. He's a professor of public health at AUT. Good morning, Grant.
Morning, Ryan.
Good to see you. So what is that, hype or is it actually good product?
Yeah, I think the last couple of years of science has been incredible for creatine. I think we all started 20 years ago with bodybuilders, sprint athletes, and the endurance athletes were taking it. I think in the last 2 years, the science has been pretty convincing that it's going to help you sleep better. Just for your average gym goer, I mean, you've obviously got to go training, but if you do go training, you might expect an extra kilo or two of muscle and an extra kilo or two less of fat over 6 months. Where else do you get that?
Well, I didn't. Yeah, what have I been doing? Not using this. And you take it before the workout, eh?
I think it's just a daily dose.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's not where it stops, because I think the most incredible things are around the brain, actually. The sleep, it's been used now with Alzheimer's patients to sort of slow progression. And to me, the most exciting study came out about 2 months ago. They randomised people to creatine and talk therapy for their depression, or just the talk therapy, and the creatine doubled the effectiveness. Never sort of heard of before. One trial, but this is. I mean, when else in nutrition and supplements is there good science that almost everyone agrees on?
Never. Do you have to be working out for the creatine to be effective?
I don't think so for the brain, but for the muscle, obviously, you're not getting any response to not doing any work. I think most people sort of get that idea, right?
Well, it would be nice if we didn't have to think that way. Okay, so take creatine. If you're going to the gym, why wouldn't you? Are there people who shouldn't?
I don't think there's any research done on kids, like primary school and younger. I probably wouldn't give it to them, but adolescents and onwards, all the way up to oldies. And remember, oldies are the ones who really need to preserve their muscle mass.
Yeah. Paul, did you hear that? Paul's in our control room. Yeah. What is it?
So it's creatine monohydrate. What it really does, it gets phosphate into the mitochondria. So the mitochondria, these little energy producers, every cell, like every second in your body, my body, our brains, there's millions of these reactions where we move ADP to ATP, phosphates required, and it increases the phosphate pool. If it works in muscle, it was probably always going to work in the brain. I mean, the brain's something like 20 times more energetic than a piece of working muscle, so energy is required. This helps the pool of some of the biochemistry involved.
Grant, would you say for anyone watching this who's not a child that you should be taking creatine?
I don't know if you should, but I don't think it's going to harm you, and it has potentially good benefits. I've been in this field for 30 years, and I really have not been enthusiastic about supplements. This is the first supplement I've been pretty much, well, even wildly enthusiastic about. I think it's, I mean, I take my family, my 84-year-old mum's on it, myself and my wife in our mid-50s are on it. I've got my young adult children and one adolescent child. They take it, they all work out. But yeah, that's really a big change in my family.
Have you noticed any change in are you more muscly? Are you smarter?
Well, come on, I thought you would have just been...
Well, I haven't seen you in person in a wee while.
No, I feel good. I think, I train a fair bit, so I was always pretty good, but yeah, I think it leans you up a bit. And let's face it, in your 50s, it's not getting any easier.
No, just look at Paul. Hey, thanks for... just one final question. This is not related to creatine. But when people go on low-fat diet, there's this fad of don't eat fat, fat's bad.
Yeah.
We've sort of been through that. Does that affect the brain? Because the brain needs a lot of fat, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think particularly those omega-3s, which are in your fishes and quality meats and game and stuff. Yeah, I think you have potential for that. So yeah, keep eating the fat. Fat's great. I think that's our friend, really.
But people stop eating it because they think that it's going to make them thin. But then they end up with issues, and they're either not feeling great mentally, or there's a potential for Alzheimer's down the line.
Fat's an essential nutrient, which means you have to eat it, and it's required for every cell in your body. So yeah.
All right, I'll keep eating fat and get some creatine. Thank you. It's Grant Schofield, Professor of Public Health at AUT. Time is 18 minutes after 8. We'll take a quick break and be back in just a second.
You Do It DIY can make your new dream kitchen a reality. As a trusted Kiwi manufacturer for 44 years, You Do It has made it easy to design, order and assemble your own dream kitchen, offering a range of colour options and flexible sizing. With excellent online support, our customers all agree that You Do It makes DIY easy, delivering superb quality at a great price. Get your project started today at newsroom.co.nz.
We have completed 4 builds with GJ. Every time we want to think of building, we always go back to GJ.
It's a really good experience throughout the whole process.
They deliver what they promise on, and it feels like working with a family member. It's very easy and trustworthy to work with GJ.
Stop paying the waiting tax. The money you could miss out on by delaying the start of your investment journey. Up your tempo with Tempo, the guided investment app that helps you get started. Don't delay because you don't think you have enough time, money, or know-how. All you need is a goal, and our guidance will help with the rest. Plus, this month, get a guaranteed $10 Kickstarter and the chance to win $1,000. Download Tempo now.
Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, Kaylee Bell, Jelly Roll, Megan Moroney, Chris Stapleton. All the country stars have come to play on the all-new iHeart Country NZ. Your new home for country is iHeart Country NZ.
Welcome back. It is 20 after 8 now. We'll get to our panel for the big stories of the day in just a second. First, it is time to talk tech, thanks to our partners 2 Degrees. The effects of social media on our young people is a growing problem, a growing concern, one that's difficult for parents to navigate. Advocacy group Before 16 has partnered with 2 Degrees on a new podcast, One Young Mind, which dives into the neuroscience and the real-life experiences behind growing up online. Emma Kate Greer is Chief Customer Officer at 2 Degrees and joins us live this morning. Emma Kate, nice to have you here. Good morning.
Hi, thanks for having me.
What is the One Young Mind podcast?
Yeah, so the podcast was brought together by the Before 16 group, which are really looking at the impact of social media on young people, particularly in those age groups where it's proven that it has more of an impact. So 11 to 13 for girls, 14, 15 for boys, and just looking to prevent that social media access until later. We're supporting them by getting behind this podcast because at 2 Degrees we think it's a really important discussion to be having.
It certainly is. So I didn't realise that. Different ages for the sexes, has more of an impact at a different age, developmental age, for the two sexes.
Yeah, so look, the research, that was some research that came out of Cambridge University. There's lots of research that shows that social media can have an impact. It can have impact in lots of ways, anxiety, self-esteem, sleep for young people. And we just know that balancing the positives of connectivity with the challenges of social media access for young people is something that educators and parents are really grappling with.
What changes, Before 16, the group, what changes are they wanting to see?
So they're wanting the government to look at it, and we've heard obviously this week some discussion from the Prime Minister that it is on their agenda. What we're seeing in Australia is that their legislation is coming into force next month, so that's going to be something to really keep a close eye on. So effectively what they've put in place is a requirement for the social media platforms to limit access or cut access for under 16s. So that's going to be really interesting to watch. But we've also seen just this week again, Denmark have come out with similar announcements, so they're looking at how they will make that work as well.
And it's all of the nitty-gritty fine detail on that, isn't it? It's how do you actually enforce it and make it work?
Yeah.
What about this technology more generally? How do you weigh up, the good, and there is undoubtedly good that comes from being connected, but how do you weigh that up with the bad?
Yeah, and look, that's not, there's not going to be one single solution for it, and that's why it's such an important thing for, for everyone to look at, and I think probably the most important aspect is having the right discussions with children. So regardless of what comes into place around at a regulatory level, one of the things that 2 Degrees has been very focused on for a number of years is our Fairer Phones project, and it provides information to different groups, parents, adults, all sorts, about how to actually deal with the different aspects of phone use and technology that may be more challenging, because connectivity is a wonderful thing. Our young people are super smart. I have 3 kids of my own in that teen-tween age, and they're incredibly smart. They have access to a huge range of information that we didn't have access to, but there are downsides to that we've
If we wanted to know something, Emma Kate, we would look it up in an encyclopedia.
Yes, we would have, yeah.
Or a map,
yeah.
A physical map.
Exactly.
Gone are the good old days.
Yeah.
Hey, I see that you've bought me a new phone, have you?
Yeah, this is not a new phone. In fact, actually, this is a box that doesn't have a device in it, quite deliberately, because these are available. This is a First Phones box, which has a lot of helpful information for parents and young people. It's designed in a way that's appealing for kids, and we give those out in our store. And the reason they don't have a phone in them is because often kids are getting second-hand devices, so anyone can come in and get one of those and have a chat with our team and get some good advice around that critical first phone.
So if you've got a young one, they've just got a device, put it in this box.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So no requirement to buy anything, you can just come in and have
that's
the
handy.
discussion.
And you can make it look like a new one too.
Yeah, exactly. They get the unboxing experience, which we know that kids love.
Hey, appreciate you coming in this morning,
Cool.
Emma Kate. Nice to see you. Emma
Thank
Kate
you.
Greer, who's a Chief Customer Officer at 2 Degrees. That's thanks to our partners, 2 Degrees. It is 25 minutes after 8 now. Coming up next, Dilipa Fonseca is with us, along with Rawdon Christie, for our panel of the day. And then you probably won't have heard of her, but Theresa Payton was the first female Chief Information Officer at the White House. This is under Bush, George W., and she was dealing with cybersecurity then. She's got an interesting message for us after 8:30.
I'm Hayden Scott, and I'm a knife maker. I make knives from my workshop at home in West Auckland. Yeah, my previous life, I was a chef. Did that for 25 years. But I had this knife making thing that I was doing and had been doing for some time. And so that transition from finishing that 25-year career and taking the plunge into full-time knife maker, I had been building up to that, but I still had to take a leap.
Oh, no liming tech solutions experts.
Here to set up your new smart TV.
Oh, goody. We're a family of 4, so we need it done perfect. Too high. Too low. Just right.
Of course, we can assess your Wi-Fi network and run a speed test. And now check out these features. This is how you get to streaming.
We love streams.
Nobody has supreme knowledge of home TV setup like Noel Leeming.
Maximising productivity, what have you got?
Well, if we switch to 2 Degrees, with Flex for Business, we can instantly manage data usage, employee mobile plans, and cost centre reporting, saving us time and money. Cool. I'll get onto that then. Mm-hmm.
I became a Herald journalist to go behind the headlines and to help people make sense of the world.
I became a Herald journalist to help people understand the big issues that affect them.
To ask the right questions and to press people who have the answers.
To listen to people and to be fair and balanced.
To highlight the plight of the marginalised and vulnerable and challenge those in authority.
To share extraordinary moments in the lives of ordinary people.
I became a Herald journalist to report the facts. That's what we're here to do.
If it's news you can trust, it's news worth knowing. The New Zealand Herald.
I think you might have heard that little behind-the-scenes chat on air. I was talking about Grant Schofield, who was the guy from AUT on the program earlier, talking about creatine. Anyway, he's in his 50s, and he looks at Rawdon's here, by the way, and Dalipa Fonseca for our panel this morning. But he looks incredible. He's in his 50s, and I was just saying, you know, normally when you get old people sort of just turn grey. He's really tanned and vital looking, isn't he?
Yeah.
Are you going to start taking creatine now that you've spoken to him?
I feel like he may do more things than creatine, perhaps.
The working out, the diet, everything else.
Creatine seems maybe the easiest thing to do, so perhaps that is the one thing to adopt.
Yeah, kind of like it sounded like a miracle drug to me, a miracle supplement. Rawdon.
Well, a couple of people in my family take it every day.
Oh,
yep, my wife does often, but I think it's used by a lot of middle-aged women for all sorts of reasons. My son uses it because he does a lot of gym work, and it's an every day. There's powder all over our benches at home. I never know what it is, but it has become a completely normalised. On air, but it's a normal part of their lives, and I remember. Jo was talking to me about it, saying, because she's looking at me going, you're wasting away, your muscles are dying, you're going, and we need this, apparently, particularly at our age, when we get to our mid-40s, when we get to my age, you need it because you've got to somehow replace your wasting muscles. My problem is, and I think you did cover this off with Grant, is what happens if I take it and I don't do the exercise?
Yes.
Is it then going to not work?
It's not. It doesn't do anything. It won't hurt you, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't have the effect that it should. Apart from the brain, actually, he did say that it improves your brain function.
And probably your sleep and everything, all those things which we sort of... Anyway, and now I've found out you can take it in gummies. I'm in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently.
Hey, house prices, and I want to come to you on this, obviously, Rawdon, but Dalipa, the comparison between us and the Australians is pretty incredible when you look at where their prices are now. They're basically back to, if not beating, the heights of COVID over there.
Yeah, well, actually, there's some actually big differences, I think, between the Australian and New Zealand market, and it's actually not just the economic situations. I mean, Australia actually has a lot more restrictions on housing than some areas. I mean, Brisbane has banned townhouses. You know, that is definitely not something direction that we moved in. So they've actually got some quite big restrictions on supply in some of the central areas, which we've been moving in the other direction, trying to free up supply. And I mean, historically, Australia has, built a lot of supply of houses, but I think in more recent times, a lot of these restrictions in the city centres around building and things like that have started to really matter. And as we all know, I mean, when we talk about something like house price affordability or house prices, we often talk about it, and you'll see a news article and it'll be like, look, you can buy this $100,000 house in Gore or somewhere like that, and location matters when it comes to real estate, and you can't just. And so if you can't build in a particular area, then the land prices are going to go up. The house prices are going to go up. And I mean, I think that's, I think that one of the good moves that we've done in New Zealand in recent years is try to free up some of those rules in the city centre, some of those planning rules, which have actually allowed us to produce, more houses. And one of the interesting stats to me is, I think house price, the consent are up like 3.6%, right?
Yeah.
But the house prices have actually been sort of in decline. I think, the recent number I'd seen was something like, 0.4% kind of down. So if you're building at the moment, you're building into a kind of market where the house prices are going lower, right? So we've actually created an environment where you don't need to have huge house prices to stimulate construction. And I think that's actually a good thing.
Rawdon, what are you seeing just in the last wee while? I mean, I know there's seasonal stuff that happens at this time anyway, but are you seeing the buyers there coming back?
The big picture is we've just had 3 months of stability of the same median house price. This is Auckland market.
Yeah.
3 months in a row. That to us spells absolute stability. This is now what we think is going to be a solid base from where we will see prices start to lift, particularly in obviously the Reserve Bank's come to the party a little bit now and tried to be more aggressive with trying to stimulate things. I would hope that they'll see another cut come through at the end of the month.
Hopefully it would be another aggressive cut. And then I think we're going to see things moving. But you've got to remember that we're also looking at immigration figures. We're looking at wages when it comes to housing affordability. We're looking at stimulating. The first home buyer market is particularly strong at the moment. Again, the Reserve Bank's starting to make it a little bit easier for them to be able to borrow. I know in Australia they've suddenly made it a lot easier for you to borrow first home buyer, maybe even 5% again rather than the 20%. So all those things will start stimulating here. But I don't think we're ever going to see. We always tend to be 6 months behind Sydney, and go slightly slower than Sydney anyway. So I think we're probably going to see things next year improve over the year. It's not going to gallop away.
Yeah, not going to be run away. Hey, very quickly before we go, Jivan McSkimming, Andrew Costa, the whole police thing, Dalipa, what were your thoughts?
My thoughts were, we often have these transparency index, Transparency International surveys where we come out as the least corrupt country, or I don't think we've been perhaps doing worse in those rankings in recent times. But to me, just reading it, this to me is what sort of corruption kind of looks like. I mean, maybe not in the sense of someone getting paid off, but as in sense of a boys or a boys sort of club, I guess, for lack of a better word, of people who are kind of predicting each other, at least from the looks of the report, and dismissing the claims of kind of an outsider. And I think this is actually a big danger for small countries like ourselves, that some of these institutions get captured, and it's very hard for anybody on the outside to kind of be able to untangle it.
Grubbiest corruption scandal I think I've ever seen, is at least in recent times in New Zealand.
Look, I sat through the Louise Nicholas trial 20 years ago with her and her family and her supporters. At the time, one of my colleagues, Phil Kitchen, had broken the story, and I was the daily reporter dealing with it. And we sat in there knowing that 2 of the accused were sitting in jail for a similar. Obviously, the jury wasn't privy to that, and they were found not guilty. Now, as a result, the public response to that was the big report was written, and it was, the system was going to change. I'm amazed. I cannot believe it's been allowed to. It's not to the same degree, but that the lack of process in the appointment of senior police officers, the lack of accountability to the ministry. I can't believe it's got back to that place again. The good news is it seems that everyone responsible at the moment is really taking this as seriously as they can, and they're going to be slamming this as fast as they can, from ministry through to senior police. But it just amazes me that this guy could end up as Deputy Commissioner again.
Absolutely. Dalipa Fonseca and Rawdon Christie on our panel this morning. Thanks so much for being with me, team. Time now is 25 minutes away from 9. Here's Neva with headlines.
Herald Now News, powered by News Talk ZB.
The police force is undergoing huge change following a scathing report revealing major failings by senior leadership as they handled allegations Jivan McSkimming was a sexual predator. The former Deputy Police Commissioner is awaiting sentence after pleading guilty to having child sexual exploitation and bestiality material on his work devices. A police watchdog report finds some of the nation's highest-ranking officers ignored a young woman's anonymous complaints against McSkimming. Instead of an investigation, her emails were used to prosecute her for harassment. The government's now moving to install an Inspector General of Police. Police Commissioner Richard Chambers says he's undertaking a refresh of senior leadership. He says he's appointed an independent King's Counsel to conduct employment investigations where required. Police Minister Mark Mitchell says the findings should not be a reflection on police. He says the police enjoy strong public trust and it's imperative it remains. Meanwhile, survivors advocate Louise Nicholas told Ryan Bridge she's disgusted and saddened by the allegations, but says it feels somewhat inevitable. And former Police Commissioner Andrew Costa is on leave from his new role as the Chief Executive of the Social Investment Agency. The Associate Justice Minister admits some ideas in her Arms Act rewrite didn't make it past the cutting room floor. She's revealed details of changes to the 1983 Act delivered under an ACT National Coalition agreement. It doesn't include Nicole McKee's bid to allow greater access to military-style semi-automatic weapons. She says she's also not ruling out scrapping the gun registry, which she didn't get this time. McKee says she didn't win the argument, so ACT has invoked the agree to disagree clause with the coalition. The Automobile Association says there are few alternatives for motorists looking to dodge potential congestion charges. Parliament's passed a law creating a framework for councils to start charging drivers for using certain roads during peak periods, starting in Auckland. AA Policy Director Martin Glynn says overseas congestion pricing is used in city streets, but in Auckland, it'll have to be on the motorways. Progress appears to be underway towards a potential Pike River prosecution nearly 15 years on. Police have finished their investigation into whether anyone will be responsible for the deadly 2010 blast that killed 29 men. Crown solicitors are expected to make a decision before Christmas. IKEA's confirmed the menu for its soon-to-open Auckland store. Kiwis will be able to tuck into classic Swedish meatballs with mashed peas and jam, alongside Kiwi classics like fish and chips and lamb pies. Some special New Zealand exclusives include pavlova and an eatball medley where customers can sample all 3 meatball varieties on one plate.
Herald Now weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora. Heavy rainfall returns from the north as we head through the rest of the day, with that rain reaching towards Northland this morning, Auckland this afternoon, and then spilling across the rest of the North Island through the night time tonight. We have got some heavy rain watches for Northland, the Coromandel, those western parts of the Bay of Plenty, and also crossing towards Tairafti as well. And along with that, some pretty strong gusty winds as well. Down in the south, it's generally the better part to be. Plenty of dry weather down across southern parts of New Zealand, some stronger winds around the coastal parts of Otago. Up into Canterbury and Marlborough, most of the day it's dry, areas of cloud to watch out for, and it will turn cloudier later on, those winds picking up through Cook Strait by the end of the day. The North Island will generally get cloudier through the daytime. Watch out for the winds through places like Taranaki and Wanganui as we head through the night time tonight. And for the wetter weather, head up towards those northern parts of the country. For the likes of Tairafti, it's late in the day, but it is a wet-looking story. For the Bay of Plenty, the rain arrives during the afternoon and stays with us. Similarly, for the likes of Northland, Auckland, it gets wetter and windier through the daytime. The risk of some thunderstorms, especially around those eastern parts of Northland and Auckland, and rather a windy end the day in Auckland with that rainfall as well.
It is 20 minutes away from 9 now. Teresa Payton has spent her career at the cutting edge of technology. She was the first female Chief Information Officer at the White House and was working with AI long before you and I had ever heard of it. Today, Teresa's a cybersecurity CEO and author, and she joins me at the desk this morning from Fortalus Solutions. She's here also for the Spark Accelerate conference. Good morning, Teresa. Nice to have you here.
Oh, it's so great to be here with you.
Who were you serving under? It was Bush, wasn't it, at the White House?
President George W. Bush, and I was there the second half of his second term. So that's 2006 to 2008.
What is the Chief Information Officer in charge of?
Yeah, so every president gets to decide. So my remit when I worked for him was think about anything technology that was on the unclassified side. So Air Force One, the helicopters, his personal residence, White House proper, all the international trips, all the domestic trips. If it had technology involved, my team was behind it, supporting it.
Making sure that he wasn't spied on, like all that side of it, the security
and
side of it?
But also all the technology. So if you pick up the phone and it works, that was my team. If he he had a photographer, all the digital photography, that was my team, making sure that all the pictures would be preserved for history. So anything that makes the White House work that's technology oriented. So kind of a big job.
Massive job, especially the White House, the Air Force One. Was that the biggest challenge in terms of technology and making sure it was always going to work?
Yes, because if you think about it, we didn't have Starlink satellites all over the place, right? And so what's great is we would work very closely with the White House Military Office and White House Communications Agency. So there were certain things that they had access to, and they would help with that connectivity, and then we would do the actual technology on board. So it's a really good, I always say it takes a lot of different tribes to support the White House.
Because one of the things, I watched many documentaries about 9/11, but one of the things that they highlight was the communications issues on board Air Force One. President Bush gets in the air, needing to keep in contact, satellite TV feeds, not great.
Right, and so, but by the time I got there, a lot of that had been remedied. So his chief of staff and a deputy chief of staff, like Mr. Joe Hagan, they actually went through a complete overhaul process, learning just how archaic our communications were during a crisis during 9/11. I was in banking at the time, and we saw very similar things with infrastructure. So we obviously had people who were in New York City, and I still remember that day like it was yesterday, and the infrastructure in America did not really hold up at that point. So there were a lot of tough lessons learned on that day.
100%. Are we learning, are you learning, is America learning tough lessons about keeping up on the AI front at the moment?
It's literally a digital arms race. And, the countries who dominate quantum computing and AI, and I'm going to add this, with ethics and governance, the countries that do that are going to be the countries that are strong economies for decades to come. And so we really are in a race to see who's going to get to quantum first and make it commercially available, and who, with ethics and governance, is going to kind of crack the nut that we have around really efficient, effective AI.
Is the hype, and there is a lot of hype, and there's a lot of share market hype, is it going to be justified in the end? Will the revenue come? Because that's the big worry, the earnings. Are people actually going to pay for this stuff?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things that have to be worked out. So first of all, AI today, the way it works is it's kind of in a good enough mode, but is good enough really appropriate? We've spent the last couple of decades realizing we have to take better care of our planet Earth and energy consumption and keeping our carbon footprints down. Well, AI right now is sort of like a 3-year-old. So it's got like unbounded energy, and sometimes it runs in the right direction and brings you back the thing you asked for. And sometimes the 3-year-old does not, and it just runs in circles until they fall asleep, right? So our AI today is very much like a 3-year-old. And so it expends energy that it doesn't have to because it's not mature yet. So we have to ask ourselves, from an energy perspective and effectiveness perspective, how do we want to use it? So I think the return will be there, but it's still early.
Does it grow up, though, and learn how to be more efficient with itself? Or do we have to teach it? Or are you saying that we might have to pull back from it to save energy?
Yeah, so what I would caution both governments and private sectors, they need to be looking at use cases, how much energy it uses, and the lack of ethics and governance in the tools today, because we are seeing mishaps happen. People are being encouraged to commit suicide, or people are being encouraged not to have in-person friendships and relationships, and instead stay home with their chatbot and have a relationship, and that's really happening. So we have to ask ourselves, how do we take advantage of this incredible innovation, which can do a lot of really good for the world, but how do we put the right governance and guardrails around it so the return on investment is there, so the energy consumption is efficient, and so that it's as safe and ethical as possible.
Teresa, great to have you on the program this morning. Thanks so much for being with me.
Thanks for having me.
And welcome to New Zealand.
Thank you. I'm enjoying it so much.
Fantastic. Teresa Payton, who's Fortalice Solutions Chief Executive here for the Spark Accelerate Conference. 14 minutes away from 9 now, time to check in with our partners 2 Degrees in Business. Politics might be knocking the shine off the value of our big power companies as we head into an election year. Earlier, I was joined by Garth Bray from Business Desk, who started off by telling us why the gentailers might not be worth as much as we think.
Because there's too much burley in the water. We're 12 months out from an election probably, right? And you've got parties on one side sort of saying, oh, well, maybe a bit more of the renewables. You've got NZ First in the mix there saying, hey, look, maybe we should still think about breaking these things up. And they're saying this is probably the most amount of uncertainty hanging over those big power companies
100%.
Since 2013 election, when Labor and the Greens were saying we needed NZ Power, which is going to be like a single buyer of power. And that is going to cramp the value of these companies. So they've just pulled the values, the target prices back 2 to 4% in some cases, saying... Look,
unsurprising.
And the effect of that might mean a bit of uncertainty about, capital allocations and stuff, spending and building more stuff.
Totally.
Which is completely opposite what old Nicola Ullis and Watts were saying about, oh, come and bring us your plans and we'll think about backing them. It's like, well, okay, except will Shane Jones stamp all over them? Is that a bargaining chip?
or is that actually a firm intention on their behalf?
100%. This is the problem when you get the government involved in the market.
Well, but they are.
Yeah,
There's no denying it, right?
No, they're donkey deep. Well, we're all halfway donkey deep in these companies, aren't we? Hey, we got card spending data from ANZ yesterday. We also had the truckometer.
Yes.
Or the truckometer.
Truckometer, I like, yeah.
And we're seeing, I know it's not great news, but it's good news.
Shifting out of first gear, but it's a pretty flat road, would be my analysis of those numbers there. You've got, so you've got the light traffic index, which was up about 0.2, about 3.2 year on year, so sort of just pacing ahead of inflation really. But that has been an indicator or somewhat predictive of where GDP goes, not to 3.2, but the trend line. You got the card spending that said durables were pretty strong. That's the part of the market that's pet shops, apparently. We're all flashing the cash at pet shops. Second-hand stores still doing a brisk trade. Maybe it's just the thrifting thing. And pharmacies, I guess we've just come out of winter. But, a real lift there, I think, about 6.3% year on year. So some signs, some momentum there in spending.
Because when your durables does well, which it's the fastest growing one, that's a sign that people are starting to...
So they say. But against that you had the Reserve...
Can you not be a bit more excited, Garth?
All right, thrilled. Reserve Bank survey of 2-year expectations for inflation said, look, she's about flat, which generally indicates that demand's still a bit soft, which probably puts a bit of pressure on to say, yep, another OCR cut would be a good idea, but it does indicate that demand is soft, that people are thinking, hey, things aren't going to go gangbusters next year.
Which is good news that we're getting the OCR cut, hopefully, but bad news of why.
Yeah.
Now, Meta is about to lose its top AI guy. Why? Where's he going?
Well,
she going?
It is he, yes, Jan LeCun, and this is the Financial Times just reporting today, big exclusive splash there, that one of the pioneers of modern AI may be about to quit Meta and go off and run his own thing. Various reasons about why this is. On the one hand, he's been basically put under reporting to some 28-year-old whiz kid called Alexander Wang, who he possibly doesn't agree with, doesn't like being under Wang. And suggestions also that he's a little bit at odds with the Meta's plan to roll out lots of large language models really fast. And he's saying, look, these things basically are useful, but they'll never be able to reason and plan like humans, and there has to be a fundamentally different way of doing AI, my way. So he's off to do that, potentially. Neither of the Meta nor LeCun are commenting on this. This is all just, chat on the sides.
Right.
But, we'll see. I mean, Meta's prices dipped down a little bit on that.
Those kind of AI announcements right now are like, crack cocaine for the market.
Absolutely, yeah. The Meta price hasn't dropped anywhere near as much as it did last week when they all took a bath, but it has dipped just a wee bit in trading today.
That was Garth Bray earlier on the program. Thanks to our partners, 2 Degrees. That was business. It's 10 away from 9. Let's go to entertainment, where Sydney Sweeney's 3rd consecutive movie has flopped, and IKEA has revealed a secret menu. Jenny Mortimer is with us this morning. Hey, Jenny.
Hello.
Now, we'll start with IKEA and the meatballs.
Yes. So, of course, New Zealand is getting the iconic IKEA meatballs. There's something for everyone. There's veggie ball, there's the plant-based ball, and there's, of course, their classic meatballs. But most exciting for Kiwis is that we've got a few of our own special secret items that only New Zealand is getting.
Kumara balls.
Close. Kumara does feature heavily.
Milk powder balls.
Not quite. So we have got...
Butter balls.
Yes, it's
honey
just,
balls.
No, it's just cheap butter. That's all. That's the exclusive.
What are we getting?
So we are getting a pie. It's lamb and kumara. We are getting fish and chips. This is all using New Zealand meat, sustainably caught fish for the fish and chips. And in a win from the Aussies, we are getting something they are not, which is the pavlova. A little single-serve pavlova with the Swedish lingonberry jam on top. Nice little fusion of Sweden and New Zealand. So a lot of people are getting excited about this. It feels real now.
Jenny, why are people going to a furniture store for food?
Yeah, okay, so good question. Now, when IKEA first came out, people weren't staying in the store long enough to buy enough. And so the founder decided to create, in the middle of the store, a place where people could sit and refuel. And he basically said, hungry customers buy less. So in the very center of this maze-like store, you'll find a big food court, encourages you to fill your tummy and then carry on. And our IKEA even has a daycare in the IKEA. So you can drop your kids off, go have a meal, come back, shop all day, pick them up, basically. It's
disgusting. Is what it is.
Yeah, if you see my son in the daycare, you didn't see anything.
But so people are just going to go there, aren't they? Because I got friends who've got young kids. They're just going to go there.
Yeah, look, there's probably a time limit. I'm assuming.
Dump the kids. You'll be there all day, out for lunch.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and now you can enjoy some awesome New Zealand food alongside the meatballs as well.
Sydney Sweeney has had a new movie come out and it's not been greatly received.
Yeah, so the movie is called Christy and it is about a boxer who was an incredible boxer, but her main story is about escaping domestic violence. She was stabbed and shot by her husband and trainer. So it's a really deep film in terms of the subject matter and what it should have been able to bring to the box office. I think Sydney Sweeney saw it as her shot at an Oscar. However, it has bombed in one of the worst opening weekends ever. It only grossed $1.3 million, making it one of the worst opening weekends ever in 20 years.
Oh, that's not great. She had a very interesting outfit the other day for was it the premiere of this movie?
So as part of the press tour, yes.
Ah.
So, look, we've talked about it before. Sydney Sweeney is well known for her physical appearance and her boobs. So, yes, she was out on her press tour wearing the outfits she usually wears, and I genuinely think that may have drawn away from the actual film that she was trying to promote. I think people were so obsessed with what she's wearing, her politics, who she is or isn't dating. I think it may have been the wrong casting for a film that is so serious in nature when you're dealing with somebody who I don't think has a serious fan base.
Yeah, okay. And you sort of need them to be almost politically clean slate, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, and sort of agnostic in a lot of ways to that stuff.
And I think with Sydney Sweeney, ever since her voting status got revealed that she's a Trump supporter, I think maybe that's not quite her fan base anymore.
Okay, all right, interesting. Appreciate your time this morning, Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Jenny Mortimer with all the goss, Chief Entertainment Reporter for the Herald. Time now is 6 minutes away from 9. What went wrong with New Zealand's smoke-free dream and where do we go next? That's the topic for today's Front Page podcast. Chelsea Daniels here. Hey, Chelsea.
Morning.
Gone up in smoke, has it?
All gone up in smoke, Ryan.
But
yes.
we're still not smoking anywhere near what we used to.
Oh no, God no. So the smoke-frfree 2025 goal actually came in 2010. I was actually quite surprised. In my head, I was just like, smoke-free 2035. But it's actually 2025, and I was like, oh, not too long now. In 2011, for example, 16.4% of us smoked. In 2023, 2024, 6.9%. So we are going down, but there are still about 300,000 daily smokers. I spoke to Hapai Te Haora, Chief Operating Officer Jason Alexander, and I asked him, what are the actual chances of us reaching the goal of having under 5% by the end of the year? Take a look.
Yeah, by the end of the year is really tricky. So that's a lot of people that have to quit. Just for Māori alone, I think it's about 62,000 that we'd need to see quit smoking over the course of this year. Just to put that in perspective, we're getting about 11,000 quit each year based on recent trends. So it's huge. It's based off that, it's pretty obvious that we're not going to get there. Definitely not for all populations. We are still hopeful that we'll get there for the general population, but definitely not for Māori and Pacific, unless something drastic changes over the next couple of months or something's happened that we're not aware of over the past year.
So is it a big deal that we're trying to get to 5%, but we're at 6.9? I mean, it's close enough.
Is that good enough for you?
Well, I don't know. I don't think I'm not crying into my cereal every morning, waking up knowing that we're like 1.5% out of where we should have been. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good effort.
Great effort. We've come a long way.
But it is disappointing that we got rid of the whole smoke-free generation situation. Obviously, that made international headlines, having everyone born after 2009 never being able to buy a pack of ciggies would have been an amazing step forward, he says. But, I mean, look at where we are now. Were you ever a smoker?
Oh, look, I dabbled in high school. Dabbled a little bit after high school too, if I'm being completely honest with you. But I think most people now are alive to the fact that it's just terrible for you. Yeah. And you know, if you want to go running, you want to go to the gym, you just can't. You know, you just start hacking and coughing. So, yeah, and the whole wellness thing, I think, has helped. The biggest change has been the price, right?
Oh, yeah,
the
100%.
prices. It used to be, you know, when we were at school, like, I don't even remember, but max $20 for a pack of cigarettes.
$20 probably, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I stopped smoking when it hit about 25 a pack. That's where I was like, I'm out. I was in my early 20s, not earning near enough money to be a smoker, and then I switched to vaping. But now, I was cheeky. I went home and I'd run out of my vape liquid, and I went to the servo and I was like, let's just see how much
a pack of Durries.
No, I did not. They were $50.
Yeah.
For 20,
and
I said,
$50.
I'm good. That's the Australian came out. That's how
really
ridiculous it is.
Who let that animal out? Because over there, they're the opposite of here. They're still on the darts.
Oh, yeah.
On the durries big time, and not vaping as much.
And the illegal durries are, rife. My mum actually admitted to me once that she's bought some illegal durries overseas, and I had to sit down and explain to her that where the money goes. But it's very, very prevalent.
And she said, oh, that's fascinating.
She said, oh, but I'm saving money.
I'm
and I
saving
said,
so much money.
It goes to this, it goes to meth.
No, but this is the thing.
You're funding meth, Michelle.
Oh, that's just terrible, darling.
No,
but the thing is, even in New Zealand, because the price, as you said, it's like $50 here for a packet of cigarettes. The other day I was reading 40% now of cigarettes here, when they go through the bins and look at the packets, is black market. Because the price is so high, so now everyone's just buying them illegally anyway.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, something in Australia, it's like millions of people are buying illegal durries over there. So.
Chelsea, it's always fun. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Looking forward to today's podcast. Chelsea Daniels from the front page. Time is 9 o'clock. Here's headlines with Neva.
Herald Now News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
The police force is undergoing huge change following a scathing report revealing major failings by senior leadership as they handled allegations Jevon McSkimming was a sexual predator. The former Deputy Police Commissioner is awaiting sentence after pleading guilty to having child sexual exploitation and bestiality material on his work devices. A police watchdog report finds some of the nation's highest-ranking officers ignored a young woman's anonymous complaints against McSkimming. Instead of an investigation, her emails were used to prosecute her for harassment. The government's now moving to install an Inspector General of Police. Police Commissioner Richard Chambers says he's undertaking a refresh of senior leadership. He says he's appointed an independent King's Counsel to conduct employment investigations where required. Police Minister Mark Mitchell says the findings should not be a reflection on police. He says the police enjoy strong public trust and it's imperative it remains. Meanwhile, survivors advocate Louise Nicholas told Ryan Bridge she's disgusted and saddened by the allegations, but says it feels somewhat inevitable. And former Police Commissioner Andrew Costa is on leave from his new role as the Chief Executive of the Social Investment Agency. The Associate Justice Minister admits some ideas in her Arms Act rewrite didn't make it past the cutting room floor. She's revealed details of changes to the 1983 Act delivered under an ACT National Coalition agreement. It doesn't include Nicole McKee's bid to allow greater access to military-style semi-automatic weapons. She says she's also not ruling out scrapping the gun registry, which she didn't get this time. McKee says she didn't win the argument, so actors invoked the agree to disagree clause with the coalition. The Automobile Association says there are few alternatives for motorists looking to dodge potential congestion charges. Parliament's passed a law creating a framework for councils to start charging drivers for using certain roads during peak periods, starting in Auckland. AA Policy Director Martin Glynn says overseas congestion pricing is used in city streets, but in Auckland, it'll have to be on the motorways. Progress appears to be underway towards a potential Pike River prosecution nearly 15 years on. Police have finished their investigation into whether anyone will be responsible for the deadly 2010 blast that killed 29 men. Crown solicitors are expected to make a decision before Christmas. IKEA's confirmed the menu for its soon-to-open Auckland store. Kiwis will be able to tuck into classic Swedish meatballs with mashed peas and jam, alongside Kiwi classics like fish and chips and lamb pies. Some special New Zealand exclusives include pavlova and an eatball medley where customers can sample all 3 meatball varieties on one plate.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
The All Blacks have farewelled 2 further players from camp. Loose forward Samipeni Fino and Luke Jacobson return home due to a family illness and concussion protocols respectively. George Ford has beaten Finn Smith and Marcus Smith to the 10 jersey in the England side to play New Zealand on Sunday morning at Twickenham in one of 7 changes to the starting team that beat Fiji. An Australian-bred horse has claimed the New Zealand Trotting Cup for a 3rd straight year. 4-year-old pacer Kingman triumphed with Luke McCarthy in the sulky.
Herald Now Weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Kia ora, heavy rainfall returns from the north as we head through the rest of the day, with that rain reaching towards Northland this morning, Auckland this afternoon, and then spilling across the rest of the North Island through the night time tonight. We have got some heavy rain watches for Northland, the Coromandel, those western parts of the Bay of Plenty, and also crossing towards Tairafti as well, and along with that some pretty strong gusty winds as well. Down in the south, it's generally the better part to be. Plenty of dry weather down across southern parts of New Zealand, some stronger winds around the coastal parts of Otago. Up into Canterbury and Marlborough, most of the day it's dry, areas of cloud to watch out for, and it will turn cloudier later on, those winds picking up through Cook Strait by the end of the day. The North Island will generally get cloudier through the daytime. Watch out for the winds through places like Taranaki and Wanganui as we head through the night time tonight. And for the wetter weather, head up towards those northern parts of the country. For the likes of Tairafti, it's late in the day, but it is a wet-looking story. For the Bay of Plenty, the rain arrives during the afternoon and stays with us. Similarly, for the likes of Northland, Auckland, it gets wetter and windier through the daytime. The risk of some thunderstorms, especially around those eastern parts of Northland and Auckland, and rather a windy end today in Auckland with that rainfall as well.
On this IPCA report, Jenny has emailed the program saying, what I want to know is how this mess at the police was finally exposed after they had covered it up for so long, seemingly. Jenny, it was actually one of their own that complained or flagged it with the IPCA, and that's when the whole thing kicked off and it was all kind of come out into the open. Ryan says, Ethan, shocking, appalled, words cannot describe. It really has hit a nerve with people, I think, this story. Not only does this make me ashamed of the previous executive of the New Zealand Police, but it actually makes me feel ashamed to be a New Zealander today. That's from Ethan. Thank you very much for all of your feedback and all of your emails. That's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow from 7 o'clock. For more news in the meantime, head to nzherald.co.nz. They'll have updates on this story, but many others throughout the day today. A quick thank you to our partners before we leave. Forsyth Bar, You Do It, Barkers, Max, 2 Degrees, GJ Gardner, Dilma, and of course Noel Leeming. From all the team, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.